All right, joined now by Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald. Adam, the Dolphins with these 14 draft picks, 3 in the first round, 5 in the first 70. But all anyone really seems to be talking about is this 5th overall. Seems like the main conversation is around Tua or Justin Herbert. Before I ask you what you think they're going to do, just kind of lay out some of the pros and cons for both players for me.
Yeah, well, first of all, we should take a second and acknowledge that it's finally here. We've been talking about this draft for forever. It seems like since January 1st, 2019, they've been building towards this moment, and it's finally arrived. Unfortunately, they don't have their pick of all the quarterbacks in the league. They cost themselves that opportunity by winning the last 2 games of the 2019 season. If they had lost to the Bengals and Patriots, they'd be picking 1st overall. Instead, they're picking 5th. And so they're probably going to have to choose from the second best of the group. Joe Burrow is going to go number 1. That's what the Bengals are going to take. And so, as you mentioned, their choices are probably Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback out of Alabama, Justin Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon, and if there's a outside shot, they could take Jordan Love, either 5. That seems a bit too high, but maybe trade up from 18 to 12. Those are the 3 options. And look, Tua is the best player. He is the greatest talent. He probably would have gone 1st overall if not for his injury, but you can't wish that away. He has real concerns about his health. He's undergone surgery 3 times in 2 years, twice on his ankles, and the most serious is hip, a dislocation, a fracture. He says he's in great health. He seems to look pretty good in the videos that his team puts out. But the Dolphins doctors don't know for sure because of this coronavirus have not been able to put their hands on him, examine it as much as they like. So that has allowed Justin Herbert to enter the consideration as well. If you're going on pure talent, Tua is the pick. If you want the safer pick, the guy you think can withstand the rigors of a 16-game NFL season, the guy who's 6'6", 240, never gets hurt out of Oregon, will probably be the pick. So it's fascinating to watch. It has made this offseason unpredictable. It's made it a bit probably nerve-wracking for the people in charge of the Dolphins. This is the moment they've been waiting for so long. And to be frank, I don't know if they have conviction. I don't know if they think one of those 2 guys is definitely their dude. They're probably still discussing it as we speak.
It's fun. You just answered like 3 of the questions I had for you because, this interest in Justin Herbert, is it real or is it what – so much of this draft speculation, it seems like, is just kind of put out there to either manipulate other teams or the media or the player or whatever. Do you believe that this interest that the Dolphins have in Justin Herbert is real?
Absolutely. I think there's a very real chance they draft him. In fact, I would say this. I put this out on Twitter last week and people went nuts and lost their mind, but I think it's true. I think it's real. I think Tua has a better chance of falling, of having an Aaron Rodgers-like fall in the first round, maybe not all the way to the mid-20s where Aaron Rodgers lasted, but certainly into the teens, than he has it going in the top 5. You're betting as a GM your career on a guy staying healthy. And although what's the saying in finance, past production doesn't always translate into future earnings. So you don't know for certain just because he got hurt a bunch in college, he's going to get hurt a bunch in the NFL. But look, he's 6 feet tall. He's 225 pounds. He's not a big guy in NFL standards. And so I think the Dolphins have taken all that information into consideration. Now, Ruthie, would they love to get him at 18? Sure. I mean, I think they would, in an ideal world, they get the best player available at 5. And there are a ton of names we can go through. Isaiah Simmons, Jeff Okudah. There's a bunch of offensive tackles that could help this team at 5. And then maybe with their second pick in the teens, even trade up a bit, go get Tua. They'd feel a lot better about that than I think. A top 5 pick, look, is supposed to be a star. He's supposed to be a guy who's a multiple Pro Bowler, be an All-Pro, lead you to the Super Bowl. And it's hard to lead your team to the Super Bowl if you can't stay healthy. So, yes, it's a long answer to a short question. Yes, this Justin Herbert fascination is real, but I think it's more a reflection on their deep concerns about Tua's health than it is that all of a sudden Herbert's been this star on the field. No, nothing has changed. The game tape we've seen of him for 3 years at Oregon is the same game tape the Dolphins have now. The only difference is we don't know Tua's health, and because of the travel restrictions the NFL have put in place, the Dolphins can't really get a full evaluation of Tua's health. Again, I really have no feel which way this is going to go. This is what makes Thursday night so much fun. It could really go in about 6 different directions, but Justin Herbert is definitely one of those directions.
All right, we'll get back to this quarterback discussion. And of course, all of it is speculation on our ends at this point. And you obviously have spoken to people and you can make assumptions based on what you've heard. But based on what you're hearing, what are the other two positions of target you think that would maybe be going in those late first round picks?
Yeah, so if they go quarterback in top 5, they have to draft an offensive tackle, either 18 or 26. They don't have any tackles, right? Right now, they're a team with a bunch of guards and no clear-cut tackle. Certainly not a clear-cut left tackle. So I think they would take a tackle at 18, and then at 26, there's a lot of different ways they could go. I know they are really fascinated with the running backs that are in this year's class as well. They should be, Ruthie. They're really good players. A, and B. Ryan Fitzpatrick was their leading rusher last year. 117-year-old Ryan Fitzpatrick led the team in rushing. So, yes, they need a running back, and there are a bunch of good ones that they could take at 26. So I think it's going to be offense-heavy. The only way I see that changing is if a defensive player falls into 5 that they cannot say no to. And Chase Young's not going to be that player. He is going to go 2 to the Redskins. He's not going to be there at 5. But there are a bunch of other really good players that could appeal to them with the 5th pick. And then maybe you say, okay, quarterback at 18, offensive tackle at 26. I think there are as many as 5, 6, maybe even 7 tackles that are going to go in the first round. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you the Dolphins are going to take one of those 7.
How much say do you think Brian Flores has in this draft?
All of it.
Really?
Now, Chris Greer will be the one who has ultimate say.
Sure.
But he has been on record time and time again, and it's not just with Brian Flores. It's with every coach he's worked with. I'm never going to force a player on a coach. And Brian Flores has a very clear idea in his mind, the kind of person, the kind of player he wants on his team. And he's put a ton of input into that room, into that draft room. I guess he's virtual this year, but into that conversation about the kind of player he wants. And so, yes, whoever Chris Greer takes, 5, 18, 26, 39, I think 56 and 70 are the top 6 picks. Mm-hmm. Brian Flores will have sign off on each and every one of those players. You're not going to see any daylight between the two of them.
Let's go back to that number 5. Who do you think, not what the Dolphins want to do, who do you think they're going to take? Or I'm sorry, who do you think they should take? And then compare that to who you think they're going to take. If you were to go with your gut feeling right now in this moment, and why?
Well, thankfully, it's not my job on the line because it's
I knew you were going to say that.
A ton of pressure. But here's the way I look at it. The Dolphins haven't won a Super Bowl since 1973. They haven't been to a Super Bowl, I think, since 1984, Marino's second season. So we're talking 35, 36 years now since they've been to the Super Bowl, nearly 5 decades since they've won one. They need a quarterback who's going to win them a Super Bowl. That's the only thing that matters here. It's the only thing that we should be discussing. I don't see Justin Herbert leading this team to a Super Bowl. I do see, if he stays healthy, Tua Tagovailoa leading this team to a Super Bowl and winning one. So, yes, there is a risk. There's a risk he's not going to be healthy. But there's a greater risk, I think, in settling for mediocrity. And I'm not saying Justin Herbert's going to be a mediocre quarterback, but I will say this. The upside of Tua is far higher than the upside of Justin Herbert. So if it was me and I had one chance to do this and I saw a guy who could be a transformational, transcendental player for my franchise, I would run to the podium with the name Tua Tagovailoa, hand in the card, and not think twice about it.
From a fan's perspective, do you think fans can get upset with the Dolphins? And do you think that they will get upset with the Dolphins if they don't draft Tua?
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
I think fans, that is their absolute right to be upset with the team. It's their right to root for the team in whichever way they want to. And look, if you're still a Dolphins fan in 2020, after 30, 35 years of just punching your head against the wall and seeing the big three go and win 2 championships and having the Marlins win 2 championships since you last got to the Super Bowl, yeah, your patience is wearing very thin. And you're a true blue fan if you're still sticking with this team at this point. So, yes, if you have that much buy-in over the years and the decades and have gone to Hard Rock Stadium and sat in that heat and seen the team lose and lose and lose, you can absolutely get upset. And to be frank, I think they will be. I think there's a really strong sentiment in this fan base for the Dolphins to take Tua. Again, you and I having this conversation isn't the same as Chris Greer and Brian Flores putting their jobs on the line with the pick. So it's a lot easier for us and for fans to say, go, take Tua, without considering all the other factors. But yeah, there's going to be a large segment of this fan base that is not pleased if the Dolphins don't draft Tua. You know what'll change that though? If in 2021 the Dolphins go 12-4, win the AFC East, and host a playoff game, they'll forget all about their anger next Thursday if the Dolphins pass on Tua.
Just for fun, give me a percentage chance that you think they would trade up and try and get Joe Burrow at number 1.
Trade up or be successful?
Both.
Okay, they're going to try. They've tried for a while.
Okay.
The problem is this, it takes two to tango, and the Bengals don't like dancing. And they're definitely not going to dance in a year when they've already got their dance partner who won Dancing with the Stars, right? And that's the way you got to look at it. They're not going to pass up on what they think is a sure thing. There are no sure things in the NFL, but Joe Burrow in this year's draft class is as close as you're going to get to a sure thing. So no, the Bengals are not going to part with that pick. They're going to draft Joe Burrow on Thursday. The Dolphins have the ammunition to offer them anything, and I don't think it's going to be enough. But also, I don't think that the Dolphins are that dumb. I think they know that they have a bunch of needs, and they can't give away their entire draft for one player. So would I love to see Joe Burrow in aqua and orange slinging it down here and bring a bunch of excitement to Hard Rock on Sundays? Yeah, it'd be great. A lot more people would read my stories. A lot more people would watch their newscasts if this team was good as opposed to if they were bad. We all have, on some level, a hope for this team to become more relevant. It's not going to be Joe Burrow. That's not what's going to bring them back to relevance because the Bengals are not going to be okay with it.
Another just for fun question. If those 3 quarterbacks are off the board at number 5, who do you
Whoa. This is crazy.
Crazy.
What 3 quarterbacks, Ruthie?
Let's say that Joe Burrow, and Tua Tagovailoa are gone at number 5. The off chance, just for fun.
Okay. So we got.
Do you see them taking at number 5?
We're going to have to game plan this out a little bit because for that to happen, that means 3 of the first 4 picks are going to have to be quarterbacks.
Yep.
So that means Burrow at 1, Tua at 3 with the Chargers trading up, and Justin Herbert at 4 with the Jaguars trading up. That's crazy. They won't take a quarterback in that scenario because there will be no teams left that need a quarterback. They could probably wait to 26 to get Jordan Love, who's on their list as well. So they would go best player available. And to be honest, they would get the second best position player in the draft. I mean, there is a scenario in which that's not the worst thing that could happen. I don't think it's a very likely scenario, though. I think there might be one team that jumped the Dolphins, but probably not. Because as we've talked about for the last many minutes, each one of these quarterbacks not named Joe Burrow has very real flaws. And when you have a bunch of flawed players left at the position, there's not a ton of incentive for teams to package their assets and go up and trade for one. So I think the most likely scenario is the Dolphins sitting tight at 5 and having their choice of the second best quarterback in the draft because no one's going to jump them because there are just too many question marks about the rest of the guys that will be available.
If they pass on taking a quarterback, even if there is one available, who do you see them taking at number 5?
If they pass on a quarterback?
They don't take a quarterback.
Probably one of 2 or 3 players. I would say Jeff Okudah, the cornerback out of Ohio State, Isaiah Simmons, the do-everything linebacker out of Clemson. And then insert offensive tackle here because there's no consensus on who the number 1 offensive tackle is. Andrew Thomas out of Georgia's got a ton of buzz, but I don't know if he's the 5th pick. Wirfs, I believe his name is, out of Iowa. I've always mangled that name. He is a freak of an athlete. He'll be an option there as well. But they would go either tackle or best defensive player available. And to be honest, it'll probably be a coup for them if that happens because they'll get a really good player at 5.
Piggybacking off that question, do you think that the Dolphins would be able to absorb the PR hit of not taking a quarterback at number 5 if one of those 3 is available?
Well, what this draft will define the legacy of Chris Greer and Brian Flores because how their careers go are going to be determined by who they pick and how they pick them in this draft. Yes, they would be able to survive it, but it depends on who's the guy left. If someone jumps them for Tua and they don't love Justin Herbert and they think they can get Jordan Love at 18 or 14 and move up in 14 and get him, that's fine. But that's a dangerous game too because you're hoping and you're relying on other teams not taking your quarterback. It's a long wait from 5 to 18, especially since the NFL is going to be able to hit pause on the rounds if the computers fail. So yeah, it'd be a stressful 2.5 hours for the Dolphins for them to get to their pick again if they don't take a quarterback at 5. That's why my guess is they would try to move up, get a second pick in the top 10, and make sure they get their quarterback.
Adam Beasley, we could probably talk about this leading up until Thursday straight. You want to do it? Let's just see how we talk about all the hypotheticals. 14 picks. I mean, hey, there's so much potential, so much exciting things that could happen, and this could potentially be a franchise-changing draft for the Dolphins. So we appreciate your time for breaking it all down with us, and wishing you good luck this week with your coverage, and we appreciate your insight.
I'll make one prediction before I get out of here. This will be the highest-rated draft ever. There will be more people who watch this draft than ever before because there is literally nothing else on television. There is nothing else.
There's nothing else to do. There's nothing on TV, and everyone just is missing sports. I think even people who don't like sports want to watch sports and hear sports being talked about. And we got an interesting taste of what a virtual draft might look like with the WNBA. I thought they did a great job, and the NFL is such a much larger production. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear any of those Roger Goodell boos.
You know what? If you want to do it via Twitter, I'm sure he'd be happy to hear from you. At NFL Commission boo for 280 characters. I'm sure he would love the attention.
Adam Beasley, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Should be fun on Thursday.